So what I'm going to do is take you through a bit of background to why we developed a new bus depot. So a couple of things are lined up. There was obviously all the work that went on in terms of the new electric fleet and what we needed to do to improve both the depot and the operation of the buses. But there's also a regeneration and physical regeneration aspect to this project as well. So we'll go through a little bit of that. Then we'll go into the bus depot and how and why we went about delivering the bus depot the way we did. We've touched briefly on the relationship to the council, so I won't go into that in too much detail because that's been done. One of the joys of coming up as the fourth presentation of 4 on this. Then a little bit about lessons learned. So the project was delivered just off the back of COVID, Ukraine, Brexit, all the other joyful things we had to deal with. So we'll run through a bit of that. So bit of background, we have a number of policy documents, strategy documents, ambitions for growth that sort of come together. So the main one for us is Warrington Means Business, which sets out a vision for growth and regeneration within Warrington. We have a property review which backs that up. That provides hard evidence every year that actually what we're trying to do with Warrington Means Business works. We have a newly adopted local plan which spatially sets out where things should be and what they would like to be. And then we have a master plan. That's a 3D master plan you can interact with and explain to people what you want to see in various bits in the town. And they all sort of come together along with a load more underpinning information like LTP4, Central 6 Master Plan, and all the other stuff. But for what I'm going to talk about, they're the sort of main documents on here. So on the right is a stylized map of Warrington, which has 6 quarters. Obviously, what else would you do with a quarter other than have 6 of them? And basically, they sort of run round through that circle. It's about a mile radius, that circle, as to what we want to do in each of those quarters. And the point about these regeneration plans is Warrington is a place in transition. It was a hugely industrial town, is now transitioning into residential and commercial. We have had a lot of retail within the town. That's now transitioning into other uses. And we have a 2020 master plan that we want to see brought forward. And in 2 of those areas, you can't really see them from there, but on the bottom right, and in section 1 and 3, is Southern Gateway and Bank Key Gateway. So moving the bus depot enabled 2 of those schemes to a start and carry on. So Bank Key Gateway is a project between Homes England, LEP, Warrington Borough Council, to bring forward the regeneration of the Unilever site. So the Unilever site's right in the middle of Warrington. It's been there 104 years. It's an industrial site, has employed many people. But when you come out of Bank Key Station, first thing you see is Unilever. That's now not operational, and so we need to look at how we're going to do that. So the Bank Key Gateway project really does that. It's brownfield land, so it needs to come forward for development. It's also right next to Bank Key Station. So when we start to see things like Northern Powerhouse Rail come through Bank Key Gateway, there starts to be a lot of opportunity to reuse that brownfield land for regeneration purposes. Southern Gateway, which is where the old bus depot originally sat, we wanted to repurpose that as a gateway to the town and also to deliver a lot more residential development really close into the town. It's only a couple of 100 metres right from the town centre. So you've got the potential for 600 new houses within 400 metres of the town centre. And then another scheme called Bevan Mews, which will deliver about 160 units. So the bus depot site, weirdly, became a real pivotal site between these 2 regeneration ambitions. And it really kickstarts both of them. It also obviously aligns with the electrification of the fleet. So just to put in a little bit of context, that's Bank Key Gateway. 112 hectares. I will move about and point at stuff. And over the right-hand side here, the far right-hand side here, is where the bus depot is. This is a big, decades-long project in order to bring forward the sort of missing bit of Warrington's regeneration, really. So there's the Bank Quay master plan. That's what we'd like to see. New station, redevelopment on the former industrial site, development through here, and also development on this bit here. That's where the bus depot was. It's really to try and get some linkage across the town centre as well, and also, most importantly, to provide a link across the West Coast Main Line to open up the land on the left-hand side of there. And releases 75 hectares within a 15-minute walk of the station, which means connectivity to the rest of the northwest increases hugely. This is Southern Gateway, so bus depot would be right at the top there if it was still there, and this is a master plan to bring forward residential really close to the town centre. So that was where the bus depot was, the old bus depot was. I think it would be fair to say that probably wasn't the best arrival experience into Warrington, with all due respect to Ben and where he used to run the buses from. But it wasn't. It needed to be something better, something a bit different to that. New depot. So, objectives for that. We wanted to facilitate redevelopment, design and delivery of a new depot suitable for the electric fleet. We wanted to increase WOB's operational efficiency by doing so, and also encourage the use of public transport. So we also needed to future-proof the diesel depot to allow the electric charging facilities to come on board for 105 vehicles as it happens, but with an operational depot as well. So it all had to be put in up front. Obviously, we've spoken about the air quality and climate targets already, relocation, continuous operations, and also securing funding. Zebra, Stephen's touched on, so I'm going to skip that one. This is a sort of a thumbnail sketch of what the agreement was between the council and WOB. Put simply, WOB owned their own site. We wanted the site. They needed a new site to put a new depot on. So once we built the depot, we gave them the site and the depot, and they gave us the site that was the existing bus depot. So it only took us and our lawyers about 7 months to get to the bottom of that. Took me about 30 seconds to say it. So that's the general approach to how we were going to do that. Put a board in place. There are lots of different stakeholders here. To get this to work properly, you need to make sure everybody's heading in the same direction. So we put a programme board together, ultimately reports to Cabinet, and the ultimate rubber stamp for this is Warrington Borough Council's Cabinet. Cost, as Stephen's mentioned, just around about £10 million. Funding, as we set out there, accelerated fund, getting building fund 5.2, 3 and a bit, 3.5 for WBC funding. And as Stephen said, we had to borrow the money, 30-year term, 2.5%. So at that time, actually quite a reasonable way of getting funding for it. Programme, 7 months, tender issue to start on site. It's a traditional procurement. I won't go into too much detail of that because it's a bit of a nerdy construction thing to start talking about, but it basically means at the time we went out to tender, we couldn't get someone to take all the risks of building the depot, which is what we'd normally do. We'd normally transfer all the risks to the contractor. So we had to retain risk. And that means that you've got to be really, really clear and really precise on exactly what it is you want from that contractor and understand the risks you've got. So I'll come on to the site in a moment, but there were potential for contamination. There was potential for cost overruns. There was potential for programme overruns. Bearing in mind, we were looking at things like impact of Brexit, which we didn't really understand at the time, and the impact of Ukraine as well had a really big effect on some of our supply chain and materials for the supply chain. Site work, 17 months. We did have a delay, mostly due to weather, but also due to some design development time for the electric vehicle infrastructure. Soft migration, so we worked absolutely hand in glove with Ben from the start, knowing when we were going to transfer and how we were going to do it, and prep to do that as well. EV chargers, Steve's already touched on. So I know you can't read these, but at the top right-hand side was what it used to be, which was a large car park for cars. So ideal for a bus depot, because we obviously the major use is parking buses. Just sort of run you around broadly. There's a big layout. Most of this was about how you lay out chargers and how you put them through ducts and all that sort of stuff. Ground floor, I know some of you have been to the depot. Maintenance, operational maintenance facilities, MOT bay, that sort of thing. And then offices on the first floor. So what we did obviously was rip up all of that car parking space, because we had to put a load of EV infrastructure underneath it. So that all came up. So it's quite a significant construction project, if you like. So some facts and figures for next time you're playing bus depot top trumps, which I know you will do. 132 tons of steel, 2,000 meters cubed of concrete, external hard standings, 2 football pitches, and 5 kilometres of EV ducts laid underground to the 63 chargers. We actually put in the potential to expand the 105 to the 120 buses if needed. Some pictures there of progress as we were going through. I've touched very lightly on some of the supply issues. This was post-COVID, so we were also having contractors with labour problems. Ukraine, long lead times. What we did here, we were lucky in that we had an adjacent storage facility we could get hold of. So when you could get hold of materials, we said, yes, deliver them to site. We'll hold them as the council and then release them back to the contractor as they need them. Because if you missed your delivery slot, that's it. You were in trouble. You were 6 months down the line. So that, I think, probably cost us £40,000 or £50,000. I think that saved us probably the best part, £400,000. Cost inflation. Again, as I said, we couldn't get a fixed price out of the market at the time, but we were able to do things like slightly alter specifications for cladding. Sounds like a small thing. It's not, it's a really big thing. The cladding we specified was on special order, months away. Changing the colour ever so slightly meant it was in stock and we could get that brought forward. Again, is saving you in the order of hundreds of thousands of pounds. So little changes like that really enabled this project to come forward within its budget envelope and within its time envelope as well. Talked about the securing the electricity supply. One thing to understand here is, yes, in headline terms, it's a 6 MVA supply. That's what will charge all the buses, but you only get that at night. During the day, it's a 2 MVA limit, but that's fine for us. So it was only via that discussion with Spen that they said, yeah, you can have the 60 MVA, but only from, I think it's 11 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning. The rest of the time, you can only have 2. Obviously, suits recharging buses perfectly. So that was, again, it was also cheaper to do it that way. For them to get a full 6 MVA supply in would have cost us a fortune and taken quite a lot of time. Below ground EV infrastructure, I've already touched on. One thing we did have to do, we consulted EO at length about how, on what the specification was for the cables in the ground, in the ducts. Again, it's a bit of a technical issue, but that's actually really important because if you don't get those right, the cables overheat and the chargers don't perform to specification. So you've got to get that right. We changed and altered that, and between ourselves and EO, we actually came up with a different design that we think is now a bit of a template for everywhere else. Lessons learned. Well, I've leapt ahead a slide. I've been through those, so I won't go through those again. And finally, you've seen lots of people at the opening, and that's what the bus depot looks like. So I think I'm quite happy to answer questions once Steve comes back up, but thank you very much for listening.
Steve, you were saying that your plan by 2041 is to triple bus patronage in Warrington and to, I think in your words, overtake dependency on the car. Apart from obviously trying to persuade people through a better buy bus, oh, buses are lovely, you'll love them and they're electric. Is there a plan to do something to actively discourage people from going into Warrington by car by reducing car parking spaces, making them more expensive, limiting the way people can access by car? Or do you think that's a step too far in achieving your ultimate goal?
No, it's an interesting question, Dave. I think you'd often refer to it as carrots and sticks. And I'll be honest, in the short term, we're focusing on improving public transport, on improving walking and cycling, improving train services as well with our partners across the north of England. And to get that public transport and sustainable transport offer of a sufficient quality over time to then start to look at some of the more difficult things later on. I think the danger is if we go too heavy on the car restraint measures too early without the quality of the alternative in place. But that is certainly the intention of the future, is that eventually, John's talked about the regeneration possibilities there. We have an awful lot of surface car parks at the moment in Warrington. As they start to get redeveloped, we'll look to try and take more control of the parking stock and start to do things that you've just described.
Yeah, because obviously your plan involves a lot of residential accommodation. Presumably you're not going to make them residences that perhaps would have massive parking spaces around them to try and encourage that. I think you're on 15-minute towns, 15-minute cities where everything's walkable.
I think Warrington's a perfect example. I don't like the term very much because it gets hijacked, but what Warrington has is it's a compact town. You can live within 15 minutes of 2 stations and a bus depot, and then you're in 20 minutes into Liverpool and Manchester. So it already does that. And when you start to make transport plans and regeneration plans work together, as we managed to do with the bus depot and the fleet, you can see the benefit of it.
Great. Any questions from anybody out there who's heard about what you've heard about what they've been doing in Warrington? Any questions about the practicalities of what they've been doing? Any thoughts? Yes, sir. Oh, it's you. Hello.
It's me. Thank you. Fascinating. If growth in bus use is as great as you hope for, the bus depot's not going to be big enough, is it? Is there an option to expand at a future date if you need to?
So can I take that one first?
Go on then.
Okay, yeah. Apologies, John. I'm nicking something that John put in his presentation, but the original premise was to go for 120 buses and to build in that room for expansion. We did have challenges in the delivery of Zebra. All sorts of things happened. Russia and Ukraine went to war. We had inflation. We had interest rates hikes. We had a certain short-lived prime minister who crashed the economy. A lot of things happened. We pared it back to 105. But as John's touched on, there is the physical capacity to go to 120 with the services. So we have got that future-proofing built in. That fingers crossed over time, Warrington's own buses, are able to further increase their frequencies, win other work, and so there is that room for expansion there.
The other thing is the bus depot is adjacent to an industrial estate that we own. That's also part of our regeneration plans for that part of the town. So if it is as wildly successful as we hope it will be, the ability to actually expand, and it's, Ben will tell you, but it's probably parking space more than the depot itself. We have the ability to do that. So yes, definitely some more future proofing built into that.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.